The Modi government has unveiled a plethora of please-all promises in its last budget, just months before the next general election. Measures from an income support scheme to farmers, right through to promises of tax relief for the salaried middle class have been made. To discuss more on the poll budget and what it means for the BJP's chances in 2019 elections, I'm joined now by BJP Member of Parliament, Subramanian Swamy. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Mr. Swamy. Your first comments on the budget and the key question whether all of these promises can actually be implemented in time to really see any kind of electoral gain. There's only a couple of months left in this government's tenure.
Well, first of all, I'll begin by saying I don't think electoral gains are decided by our economic successes. If it was so, Narasimha Rao and Atal Bihari Vajpayee would have won hands down. In fact, they lost quite miserably. The strength of their party went to half what it was. This country moves by emotions. I think most countries move by emotions. And the issues which really affect them are those which immediately, instantly affect them. If these proposals are good proposals, but they are just a series of proposals, it's not bound together in terms of objectives, priorities, strategy, and a clear presentation of the resource mobilization. So it's an unstructured collection of happy sound and making people happy sort of announcements, and I welcome it because we are on the verge of an election, and it does matter if the mood changes. This budget is a lot more acceptable to the public than the previous four by Mr. Jaitley, which caused a lot of alarm in terms of increasing taxes and raising of interest rates, etc. That's what I would say. But as far as addressing the structural problems of the economy, there cannot be in this budget, and there isn't in this budget any such proposal.
Mr. Swamy, what about the fact that a lot of income tax cuts and SOPs have been promised for the next budget? Do you think that's appropriate, considering that this government's tenure is only for a couple of months, and whichever government comes after the elections, even if it's the same one, then they should have made those proposals in the next budget? Do you think it's correct to preempt, the next government, whichever one it may be, for the July budget?
Well, we are confident that we will be the next government. So we are now, there's no question of preempting ourselves. And we have that confidence, and so you could say it. But I would say that if you are going to say something is going to happen in the next budget, then might as well say you're going to abolish income tax. That's probably an easier thing to do than all this bookwork of who's got more than 5 lakhs and who's got less than 5 lakhs.
Let's get into that in a bit more of detail, because while people are trying to break down what is the actual relief to the middle class, income tax payer, it's now clarified that this 5 lakh rupees limit is for a rebate only, and effectively it might not make too much of a difference. Do you think more could have been done for this class of Indian citizens and people who are believed to be core BJP voters, your middle class income tax payers? Do you think over the last 5 years there has been some disappointment in store for this section of people?
Yeah, that part I agree about disappointment. The thing is, there is no such thing more could have been done. I think there's only one thing to be done. Either we abolish income tax or keep it, because people are not bothered with how much tax they have to pay justifiably. They feel that the harassment that goes with it, the treatment by income tax officers as if you are a criminal to begin with, and you have to prove yourself innocent before and will be presumed to be guilty. That kind of harassment is something that is choking people, and is increased, unfortunately, during the 4 years of Mr. Jaitley's budget. But what needs to have been done today is to announce that we are working towards the complete abolition of income tax, and not even say about this 5 lakhs, in which it is in a kind of a googly ball which has come to you. It doesn't quite mean 5 lakhs, it means something else, and so on. All these guessing would have not been there. It would have been a straight message that we are working for an abolition of income tax, and a future government, if we form it, we will do it. That would have carried a huge message.
Mr. Swamy, to be fair, abolishing all income tax is something that you have been proposing for a while, but the BJP has never been on board with it. So it is very unlikely that it would have been announced
that is not fair.
In this budget or any.
Well, I think it's not a question of being fair or unfair. It's a question of being an economist and not one. That is what it is. This kind of tinkering with the system is, it's not going to work. The people will soon find out that 5 lakhs limit is not what quite you think is the limit, or we think is the limit. And then that reaction would be that we have been taken for a ride. Now, that shouldn't happen. I would say to be smart, say something that people can understand and clearly understand. And I do believe that just because it hasn't been done in the past, I was against socialism throughout the 1960s and 70s. And in the end, in the 90s only, we implemented it. People never believed you could go faster than 3.5% per year, which was dubbed as the Hindu rate of growth. And I said 10% is possible, and we came to 8.5% during Narasimha Rao's period, and occasionally attained 10% in these last 20 years. So I think what is possible, what is fair, what is unfair, is not the question. The question is, are you going to do something which the people really want? And today the people really want a relief from the income tax system, not so much as from income tax.
Well, something else that the people really want, and here I'm talking about, the rural sector, is relief for farmers. There has been an announcement of an income support scheme, yes. 6,000 rupees a year, 2,000 rupees will hit, beneficiary accounts before the next elections. Do you think it's enough? Because it has been called a pittance. It works out to 17 rupees a day.
That's right. Well, besides that, the question is who's a farmer? Because 40% of our farmers are tenant farmers, and they won't come in the list of farmers. Those who are registered as farmers, the 60% are living in the cities, working on something else. So I think this is all bureaucratic increases, you see. I will increase so much, put it in your bank account. Why should the government get into all this work? The government should be doing more of the large-scale infrastructure. They should be dealing with issues which are macro in nature. But this kind of macro arrangements with the help of the bureaucracy is never going to work. And this one, they will soon find out that even that 17 rupees might be taken away by the bureaucrats as fees for clearing your forms on this regard.
Okay, so you've said the income tax relief is minimal. You don't seem too impressed with the income support for farmers. What is your reading of the handling of the fisc? Fiscal deficit targets have not been met for yet another year. Do you think that this government has, and I always expect an honest answer from you, do you think that this government's handling of the economy has been correct?
I never thought the government from day one was handling the economy properly. They didn't even understand what the economy was and how it can be moved. I don't blame them because they are not trained for the sophisticated nature the economy has now become. They can't even make a distinction between micro and macroeconomics. I would say this, I would not look at this fiscal deficit. It's an inane concept. I don't know why, because we borrowed it from the IMF, and IMF is a bunch of bureaucrats who say all kinds of things and then pass on to new ideas. What I would look at is the budget document which says where is the rupee gone and where is the rupee coming from. Please see that. If you add up the interest payments due and the payments that you are getting, interest payments means amortization, that includes the principal amount also, and the amount you are getting as new loans, I don't think that for every rupee that you are getting as new loans, I think you are paying away for past amortization, the requirement for amortization of 98 paisa or something like that. And so what you're going to get is just 2 paisa. You are heading for a debt trap. And that is going to come in a year or two, and you'll have a first-class crisis. Then on top of that, this NPA and public sector banks has still not been resolved. You've just postponed the idea. You've created some institutions by which this is not an immediate problem, but ultimately you have to solve the disease. And that has not been done. So I would rather look at that. I really think that deficits, if they are, the money is spent on infrastructure, on producing goods, creating a new market where traffic can travel very fast, where you can reach from the villages to the docks of the shipyards. If you can minimize the time, instead of taking 7 days for your ships to turn around, 3 days for you to go from Pune to the docks of Bombay, if you could reduce all that, that would make a difference. And that's what I'm saying, focusing on the macro aspect and not on these handouts.
Let me talk to you about the job situation. Of course, we all know about the NSSO report, which made an appearance in the Business Standard yesterday, and then the defense mounted by the Niti Aayog about it. How big an issue do you think jobs will be in this election? And do you think it was a mistake to not release those figures?
Yes, of course, it's a mistake to release what you consider to be the correct figure. If you have a doubt that some bunch of experts you hired have made a mistake, or they have not taken factors into account, then you give a dissent note, or you give your introductory note to say that these things are not acceptable. This is what the experts say. We had once this kind of a debate on how many people below the poverty line, and it was resolved that way. You should have a public debate on it. I'm in favor of that. But let me say that the unemployment became clear that it was rising during the first 4 years of the NDA rule, when Raghuram Rajan had kept on raising the interest rates. Every day, medium and small industries and small enterprises, MSME as they call, were collapsing. And that's where the bulk of the employment was. The informal sector has bulk of the employment. I believe it is something like 65%. And they were every day getting unemployed. Some of them were getting, taking jobs which was not even equal to their minimal qualifications of semi-skills. And they were doing manual work. So I am not surprised that the unemployment is an all-time high. You have to lower interest rates. You have to make access to funds or loans to MSME in a major way. Make it easy. Give all this paperwork on mortgages and all should be simplified. That is the way to go about it. And I'm not surprised that there's increasing unemployment. It's going to be increasing anyway with this kind of policy. This is not our policy. We have copied this policy from the UPA.
Yeah, but sir, this survey is from 17-18. It is showing a post-demonetization effect. So I think we must talk about it in the context of demonetization. Yeah. And looking back, it's also underlining the downside and the negative impact of demonetization.
Well, I've been saying from day one, demonetization is not going to work. It's a good concept, but there's no preparation for it. It's going to cause a huge unemployment problem. You please go and see the news items of those days. You'll see I've been saying that from day one. Now you don't have to quote this back to me.
So in that case, then, my question to you, Mr. Swamy, is you've spoken your mind on, the poor handling of the economy in the last few years. You've said that, yes, jobs is an issue. Demonetization was a problem. Then why are you confident that the BJP will be voted back to power? Why should anyone vote this government back to power?
No government is voted to power or out of power because of bad economics. I've seen Narasimha Rao and Vajpayee being misled. Vajpayee, in fact, advanced the election by 6 months, thinking that India was shining and people will vote. I don't go by all these anchors and newspaper editorials. to go by that. People are emotional. They voted for us largely because, not that we'll do new economics, but because we'll build the Ram temple, we'll give a new identity to the Hindus, and we'll unite the country, we'll teach the Pakistanis a lesson. There are a number of emotional things. We'll fight corruption. Corruption was a major thing. The only person who has fought corruption in the last 5 years is me. The government has done very little to fight corruption. And only recently we have seen some activity on that, but that is after 4.5 years of protecting the corrupt, in the sense slowing down every process. So I would say today, if there's anything which is going to get us the majority, it will be the Ram temple. And I'm sure that we are going to get the Ram temple in the next 30 days, and therefore the public is going to vote for us in a big way.
So are you saying, Mr. Swamy, that if the Ram temple project does not take off in the next 30 days, there are very little chances of this government returning to power? What is your honest opinion on the chances of the Modi government
100%.
returning?
I only give honest opinions. You've been dealing with other politicians, so you don't ask me about honest opinion. I always give honest opinion. I'm telling you, we'll be routed if we don't build the Ram temple this time.
Do you think Mr. Modi's popularity is intact or dipped? Where do you see his popularity levels at the end of this 5-year tenure?
You can have a personal popularity. See, Winston Churchill was hugely popular in 1946, but the British voted him out. They said, Winston, I don't think your party is the right party for peace, but salute to you for what you did for us. I think the same way today, if they vote us out, they will not vote us out because Narendra Modi is disliked. It will be because the party didn't keep its word. That's what it will be. I don't think there's been any erosion in Narendra Modi's personal popularity.
Do you think there is a risk of Mr. Modi being voted out?
If they don't make the Ram temple, we are all voted out. Why only Narendra Modi?
Right. Thank you so much for your time and for speaking with us. BJP MP Subramanian Swamy weighing in there on the budget and, of course, the entire 5-year performance of his government.